Mars. Ever since we've looked up into the night sky, that wandering point of light has captured our imaginations.
Over the centuries, we've dreamt of finding life there.
And to find it, we sent more probes there to study it than to anywhere else.
We've even hoped that one day we might be able to travel and live there ourselves.
I think that it's inevitable that we will go.
More than anywhere else, Mars represents a deep human desire to study worlds beyond our own.
Touchdown, we have touchdown. Extra's on. Really, I can't think about the science right now. It's mind-boggling what has happened.
And we've certainly made more television about it than any other planet in the solar system.
And just look at that. Craters on Mars very similar to those of the Moon.
Since The Sky at Night started back in 1957, there have been over 50 episodes devoted to Mars.
And over 10 episodes of Horizon.
All these programs have recorded not only our shifting perceptions of Mars,
but also the changes in how television presents the story of the Red Planet.
We're doing something completely novel, hanging it way out there.
And so tonight, we're looking back over more than 50 years of the BBC's coverage of Mars. Welcome to The Sky at Night.
Good evening. This is an extended and rather special Sky at Night because we've got a particularly interesting subject to talk about. The red planet Mars. Well, now, this is a particularly good moment to look at Mars because it's as close to us as it can ever get. Only about 35 million miles away, roughly 150 times as far away as the Moon.
For the imaginations of men, Mars has been pretty stimulating. Long personified as the god of war, it's a place we've peopled with strange, hostile beings. But the most imaginative story of Mars has come not from literature, but from the curiosity of men of science. Astronomy was one of the first of the sciences. Long before the Earth was charted, men had mapped the skies. Amongst the stars, they noticed some that wandered strangely. Calculations showed that one of them came very close to the Earth. It was a near neighbor. So was it a world like ours? Percival Lowell. He was a wealthy American businessman and no mean astronomer. He discovered the planet Pluto, but he turned to Mars in the 1890s after seeing drawings by an Italian, Giovanni Schiaparelli, who had found faint linear features on the Martian surface. He called them channels. By 1900, Lowell had produced his own maps of Mars. He said Schiaparelli's canali really were canals, and the geometric and planet-wide construction implied the work of rare intelligence.
That Mars is inhabited by beings of some sort or other, we may consider as certain, as it is uncertain what those beings may be.
The canals themselves were never photographed. They appeared too fleetingly, it was said, to be recorded through the haze of Earth's atmosphere.
The first stage in the exploration of Mars, according to the Russians, is going to be a flight over the planet's surface, taking various measurements and photographs. A few years after the orbiting trip, an unmanned probe will be sent to the planet. This would land on the Martian surface, and it's very similar to the probes which have been sent to the Moon. The instrument package has a number of different experiments. Here you see a sample of Mars dust being sucked up and then analysed by examining its effect upon various chemicals. This should establish whether or not there are any bacteria in the Martian soil. All the results, of course, will be radioed back to Earth. What is Mars really like? Before the probe era, we didn't really know. But then, in 1965, came the probes. And the first probe was Mariner 4.
This, the Mars Mariner unmanned spacecraft, is designed to fly close to the planet Mars, to take meaningful scientific measurements, and to relay to Earth its findings. Spacecraft to internal power. Engine start. Take that, man. Lift off.
The spacecraft is flying toward Mars, about to pass within 6,000 miles of its surface, and then out into space. One pass, a single chance for everything to work.
At a range of 10,500 miles, Mariner 4 began to take its pictures. There were 22 in all. The picture data were stored on magnetic tape.
For 8 hours and 35 minutes, the figures cascade to the Earth from the spacecraft. 240,000 bits of binary code, representing the shading of 40,000 dots that will finally make up the first picture.
Converted to shades of gray, this is what the first picture looked like. A revelation, comparable to Galileo's first view of the moon through a telescope.
Beautiful picture.
The pictures and data recorded by Mariner 4 revealed Mars to be a cold, barren planet. The atmosphere contains little or no oxygen and appears to be composed largely of carbon dioxide. There were no obvious traces of the canals, no evidence of life forms, but the pictures cover only 1% of the Martian surface. And the exploration of Mars, begun by Mariner, will continue in the years ahead.
Now, you'll sometimes hear it said that there may be plant life on Mars. But just to show you the fate of higher plants, I brought along tonight 2 cacti. This cactus has been quite healthily growing under Earth conditions. This one here has spent one night under Martian conditions, and I think you can see without any doubt that it's got a distinctly morning after appearance.
We slow ourselves all the way down, and then 20 meters above the surface, we do this kind of crazy thing called the sky crane maneuver. The average person on the street thinks it's crazy. Even the team that's working it, sometimes we think it's crazy. The strange part is it's actually the result of reasoned engineering thought.
We're safe on Mars.
Say something profound.
I am terribly humbled by this experience. There is a new picture of a new place on Mars. And for me, at least, that's the big payoff.
So, Curiosity's first goal is actually the goal of habitability. Were there conditions on ancient Mars that were suitable for life to have formed in, existed in, and been preserved in? These are sedimentary layers, and what these are recording is basically progressive buildup of sediment on the Martian surface.
Okay, so something's depositing regular layers of sediment. Okay, well, let's have a look. We can have the next image. There we go. It's
coming up. Yeah, it's a big image. It's a big image.
Okay.
The rock is actually a mudstone. It's a very, very fine-grained rock. And we interpret these layers to have actually formed in an ancient lake.
So long-lived is important, right? Because that tells us that not only was there water on Mars, there was water on Mars that persisted for quite some time.
That's right. We've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years of sedimentation in a long-lived lake. The big result from Curiosity is that we have these long-lived lakes that provided the conditions that were suitable for life, if it had ever arisen.
We may never find evidence of life on Mars. But that doesn't matter. Mars isn't just a place. It's a continuing story of exploration, of scientific and technological achievement.
And it's that story that we've tried to bring to your screens. At least, that was Patrick's hope way back in 1967.
When you're trying to keep people abreast of what's happening, though, there is a certain difficulty because you've got to try and hit the right level. If I made these programs too technical, well then, people who are not used to astronomy would be simply lost, and that would be no good at all. If, on the other hand, I kept them too elementary, the result would be simply boring. What one's got to try and do is to hit a middle course, so to speak. Whether I succeeded in doing that, I don't know, but at least I've done my best. Good night.